Today, AI is the worst it'll ever be. I've heard you say that phrase quite a lot.
Hi, I'm Jason Fazackerley. I'm the CEO of Tegos Systems in the UK. I've worked in the environmental sector now for about 30 years, introducing technology to our clients in waste and recycling.
Hi, I'm Will, leading transformation at Tegos. My background's in finance, but I've been working with technology and Tegos in the circular economy for the last 7 years.
This is the first in a series of interviews, and we're going to be discussing different topics of AI in waste and recycling. What we're not going to be looking at is how AI can be used in factories, in sortation lines, in vehicles, because that's really exciting stuff and very popular. But we want to focus on AI delivering real value to businesses, and that can be in the back office, it can be in your data, and that's really important to us. So this will open up conversations. We very much hope you'll engage with us. Thank you for joining.
Today, AI is the worst it'll ever be. I've heard you say that phrase quite a lot. Where does AI start to generate value for you?
It's interesting. It's a phrase that most days I do think that phrase. The change is so rapid. If in my personal life, if we go back a couple of years, I would ask ChatGPT various questions, how to fix the carburetor on my classic car, and back then it will give you some very clear instructions on how to fix it. Now, if I ask the same question, it will give me very similar information, but then it will ask me questions back, such as, do you want a step-by-step guide to diagnosis? Do you want a step-by-step guide to taking it apart and putting it back together?
Troubleshooting, helping you, yeah.
Absolutely. So it's become much more conversational, I would say, and that's made it much more real, I think, to many people.
And what about in Tegos? Where do you think is it given the most value?
I mean, obviously in business it's so powerful, but there's that light bulb moment probably about a year ago where we built agents, and the agents were taking queries from customers. They were coming in via email, and a query might be customer wants a price for a certain piece of work, and the agents would take that, create a quote within Tegos Suite, and it would get everything right. It would understand who the customer was, what material was involved, what the service was, what maybe the frequency was, and it'd prepare a quote. But at the same time, it would respond to the customer with an email saying, we're working on this for you. And the response was very personal. It would use the customer's language, both kind of emotionally and in terms of the actual language. And it would also build Tegos values into the response. So it would use Tegos language as well. So it became very personalised, or almost an intimate response, as opposed to something that previously was very robotic.
And it takes away some of the more monotonous work, really, of you've got a request from the customer. Well, it's going to transpose that data and put it into the system for you. And then the human is there to add the value, to go back and look at the quote that's been generated, check it, and just do the finishing touches, and then spend their time with doing other things.
Absolutely.
There's still lots of considerations around these sort of models and the use of AI. Because of the ease of being able to use it, there's a lot of digital noise being created. So you can create a lot of content, you could send a lot of stuff from your own company out there as marketing information, or even just to sort of distort search results. So is there more of a common sense factor when using these sort of models and tools?
There absolutely is. I think it's very important that as humans that have been evolving for millions of years, we've got the power or the influence to teach these models. So at the outset, when you're looking at introducing, for example, an agent, actually you try and teach it yourself. Try and learn from years and years of providing that service to your customers. So you use that learning method to try and accelerate or improve quickly how good that agent is. It's then very important that you constantly evaluate the quality of the work that the agent is doing. So if it starts to go off track, it will continue to go off track unless you bring it back in line. So the third step, really, I think, is human oversight, that human in the loop. Don't trust agents to do everything without checking, and use the agents to do the work in the middle, the repetitive work. But the human oversight is so important, I think.
What's a good example of that human in the loop approach?
Okay. recently we were working with a client who wanted to look at customer churn, and we did some proof of concepts there, and the modelling that you can build in with machine learning, which is a subject itself within artificial intelligence, allows systems to look at those customers that are at risk, the ones that you think you might lose, and it does that based on patterns of previous information, using that information to teach itself. So when the system would identify a customer that might potentially be at risk, it's important that the human steps in for two reasons. First one is to make sure that the reasons are valid, to make sure that what the machine learning has identified actually does mean that customer is at risk. The second reason really though is to then act on it. If you've identified, or if the systems have identified that a customer is at risk, it gives you the opportunity to do something about it, to step in, to rescue that customer, to resolve any issues or opportunities that might exist there.
Yeah, I think there's no harm in a bit of customer contact as well, so that's always going to be a good thing. I think with customer churn as well, there's a little bit of extra in that even if you didn't act on it, still having that information, maybe you come back a year later, 2 years later, and you can look back and see how accurate it was, and that might give you the trust to then be more open to acting on the data-driven.
I think that's again, evaluating the outcomes and then teaching, using that to influence the models, so that the learning continues. Because in business, situations change, the economy changes. So what might be a reason where you might lose a customer 3 years ago, it might be a completely different reason today that you hadn't identified previously. So you've got to keep relearning, just as we do as humans.
So given the trajectory of AI, where do you think most waste management companies are at the moment?
I think it's important that AI isn't seen as a single thing or a single opportunity. It's something that you need to look at across the whole of your business. What I've observed over the last year or two is that companies investing in AI are very much focused on robotic arms, intelligent sorting processes, health and safety in vehicles using video imagery, and that's very, it is visible literally, and it's very exciting. And those yellow robots in your facilities look really, really good, very high value. You can see very clearly what output they're going to.
You can see the benefits.
That's it. I think in the back office, we're missing some opportunities. There's huge amounts of data, we know that. Are we getting value from that data? With machine learning, using AI, we can get insights that perhaps a human wouldn't get, because a human isn't able to consume the volumes of data that we produce. A human isn't able to look at the trends or the cause and effect that you might get within that data.
You could also say it lowers the entry as well. If you go back a few years trying to do this sort of level of reporting and analytics, it's quite difficult to get your footing into it. You might need specialists, and now you have a bit more opportunities to just say, here's my data, what can I get out of it, where should I be looking?
Yeah, I mean, I remember speaking to people 5-6 years ago about big data, and big data was this huge concept 5-6 years ago, and big data was able to take huge amounts of data, and you ask it questions and it will give you answers to the questions. What AI has brought in now is that AI is asking the questions that you haven't even thought of, and that is really, really powerful. And by using AI in that way, we're able to identify not just trends, but predict futures, to predict outcomes. Now, that outcome for your business might be positive, or it could potentially be negative. But what AI is able to do is give you that information, give you those questions that you hadn't thought to ask, and then by acting, you can influence that outcome. You can make it even greater if it's a positive, or you can control it, contain it if it's a negative.
So it's almost like going back to causal analytic frameworks, but with AI and new technology, applying the same frameworks to the new technology to give you that prediction of where things can go in the best possible way.
Exactly.
So Jason, for the people watching, what's your closing advice for getting started?
I think start now. I think it's start with something. You start introducing AI in a small way into your business, both across the business, but also perhaps pick some small, easy wins around agentic AI. Look for something simple. Don't start with something mega complex. Just start getting some experience with it. And then I think don't just look at that shiny stuff. Don't just look at that yellow robotic arm out in the works. You know, the health and safety video imagery AI within your vehicles. You know, that's all very valid stuff. I'm not saying don't do that, but I think you can get real value from data and using AI to both manage data in terms of efficiencies and improving customer service, but using the machine learning aspects to really get that insight into what's happening in what can be a very competitive and volatile market. So for me, start early, start now, don't wait. Thank you for watching. Do engage with us. Please have conversations with us. Let's join each other on this journey through this wonderful world of AI.